Now I'm going to read you the second part of this book, which is about Abraham Lincoln. 10 years after George Washington died, Abraham Lincoln was born in Kentucky on February 12th, 1809. Abe and his family lived in a small cabin with one window and a dirt floor. Even as young children, Abe and his sister worked hard helping their parents. Abe's father taught him to chop wood as soon as he could lift the heavy axe. The Lincoln family moved to Indiana when Abe was 7. 2 years later, his mother died. It was a difficult time for the family. The next year, Abe's father married a widow with 3 children of her own. When Abe's stepmother arrived, she gave her new children as much love as her own. She made a cozy, cheerful home. Years later, Abe spoke of her as his angel mother. Abe was happy when he was able to go to school because all the children said their lessons aloud at the same time. It was called Blab School. But Abe was not able to attend school often. In farm areas, teachers had to travel around to many different schools. Sometimes school would last for just a few weeks. By the time he was grown, Abe had spent only about a year in school. However, Abe learned in other ways. He loved reading. As Abe grew up, he used every spare minute to read. He would walk many miles just to borrow a book. One of his favorite books was about George Washington. Remember, our first president. Abe continued to help his parents as much as he could. He also worked for other settlers, clearing fields and splitting logs for fences. Abe enjoyed going to the general store in town. There, he could read newspapers and listen to people talk. Abe was good at telling jokes and stories. The shopkeeper gave him a job because people liked him. One day, the shopkeeper asked young Lincoln to take some goods down the river to New Orleans. There, he saw people being sold as slaves. He thought this was terribly wrong. He never forgot what he saw. When Lincoln returned home, he had to quit his job and help his family move to Illinois. He soon found a new job at a store there. At the store, Lincoln made a lucky discovery. He found a law book stored in an old barrel. Lincoln had always wanted to study law. He dusted off the book and began to read. After studying many books, Lincoln passed the law exam. Now he could be a lawyer. Meanwhile, friends had asked Lincoln to run in a state election. The first time he ran, he did not get enough votes. He lost. But the second time, he won. When he was 31, Lincoln fell in love with Mary Todd. 2 years later, they were married. The Lincolns had 4 sons named Robert, Edward, William, and Thomas. Soon, Lincoln was elected to Congress. There, he spoke against slavery. He believed that no one had the right to make another person a slave. Next, Lincoln ran in an election for the Senate. His many speeches about slavery made him famous. Lincoln lost the election, but he was not ready to give up. He would run for president. In 1860, Abraham Lincoln was elected the 16th president of the United States. But there was no time for celebrating. The arguments about slavery were tearing the country apart. A group of southern states withdrew from the United States. They formed a separate country called the Confederate States. Soon the North and South were at war with each other. Okay, so we have like the blue states, and then these down here, it says the South, the North, so the blue ones are the North, and these white ones are the South. This is just territory, it's not even states yet. and then this part is Mexico here. So the white states down here and the blue states up here were fighting over slavery. Lincoln wanted to keep the United States together. He was willing to fight this war to keep the country from breaking apart. Finally, after 4 years, the Civil War ended. The North and the South were back together as one country. The United States of America was united again. Now Lincoln could end slavery. He knew he had the support of many Americans, but he also knew there were people who hated him enough to kill him. 5 days after the war ended, President Lincoln went to a theater. During the play, a man sneaked up behind Lincoln and shot him. The president died the next day on April 15th, 1865. Later that same year, a law was passed that ended slavery in the United States. For the first time, all of the people of our country were free. Lincoln's dream had finally come true. In 1922, the Lincoln Memorial was declared in Washington, D.C. Inside this beautiful building rests a famous statue of Abraham Lincoln. And I did want to mention that Abraham Lincoln and George Washington are on money. So if you see the $1 bill has George Washington on it, and the $5 bill has Abraham Lincoln on it. And they're also on coins. So on a penny, you're going to see Abraham Lincoln. And on a quarter, you're going to see George Washington.